In this video, we'll talk about focus defined. Focus is integral to accomplishment. It may actually fall into the same category as ambition, motivation, leadership, and other driving forces behind becoming successful, but does not necessarily get the attention that it deserves. Often downplayed, the role of focus cannot be sabotaged in an individual's ability to be productive. What all this basically means is that you need to be focused in order to achieve something or become successful in your endeavors. But before we go into that, here's a look at what focus really means. By definition, focus is a thinking skill that lets people start a task without procrastination and then keep up their attention and effort until the job is complete. It's an ability to not only pay attention to things that they're engaged in, but also avoid distractions that will impede the work they're trying to do. In fact, focus is so important to getting anything done that you can't really think without focus. When you hear things like perception, memory, learning, reasoning, decision-making, and problem-solving, you know that none of these can be done successfully unless you focus. On the contrary, a wandering mind will make you less effective in your work and your productivity will suffer. The same will also compromise the quality of work, giving you less than optimal results. Not to forget that you will also be wasting time every instance your mind drifts off. Why do people suffer from a lack of focus? In some cases, a lack of focus may be a matter of interest. Take your everyday to-do list, for instance. Not everything on the list might be interesting to work on, but you need to get things done anyway for you to move ahead. In these instances, you may find yourself stuck, trapped, doing something that you couldn't care less about. Your only obligation may be the feeling that you need to get the job done to move on to other things. Not such a great motivator, but that's reality. In the real world, things need to get done to make way for other things. It's only natural that your mind starts to drift off in these situations. You may end up finding excuses for not doing that particular thing, say by justifying that you really don't need to do the job right then, or that it's not really that important, or even something like, you've got better things to do than the job at hand. But any way you dress them up, they're all just excuses for procrastination. Which brings us to another aspect of focus, procrastination. Procrastination is perhaps the biggest hurdle in the way of attaining good focus. When you use procrastination to get out of things, what you're really saying is that you don't want to do a particular task, or that you are secretly hoping that it will just go away on its own, or that you will eventually feel motivated to do it. With so much going on, it's no wonder that focus gets sidelined and never surfaces to the forefront. And while a lot more can be said on procrastination, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it in a later chapter. For now, it's sufficient to say that procrastination, in fact, is the granddaddy of all excuses and will never let you focus properly on any given task. How can you counter a lack of focus? Moving on, while you may be well aware of what is stopping you from focusing, think procrastination, you may not know how to tackle this problem. So here's some help. Address what needs to be done. To make focus work for you, you need to have a clear-cut goal. Call it a grounded purpose towards which all your efforts are directed. When you have this reference point in sight, you can apply all your skill set and decision-making to get the job done right. But with this crucial factor missing, you may as well go on a roller coaster ride. It is these clear-cut goals that define what needs to get done. Clear-cut goals also stop you from derailing and prevent you from going places where you never intended to go. Pick out a typical day in your life and think of all the 50 or so things you need to do. With your mind divided and scattered, trying to deal with all 50 at the same time, you're likely not going to get much done. On the flip side, you may actually neglect to do some of the more important ones as you keep thinking about everything else instead. This is a point where focus can come save your day. Using focus, work by the process of elimination and prioritize your goals. When you learn to prioritize your goals, you end up spending your time in a much more meaningful way. The important stuff gets done first and the not so important later on. Filtering out such time eaters also helps you regain control over chaos, and you no longer need to feel that you are wasting time. Address why something needs to be done. When clear-cut goals are paired with a sense of purpose, the dilemma starts to resolve itself fairly easily. This sense of purpose also verifies why something needs to be done. People are naturally more motivated when they have a reason to do something. With that reason in mind, you will feel more inclined to perform better, so you get the results you seek. A sense of purpose will also fine-tune your focus as you want to get the best results out of your efforts. Also, address when something needs to be done. This one ties in with prioritizing your goals so that important things get done first. Knowing when to do what can make everyday living so much easier to cope with. Plus, giving yourself a time frame to work within helps you stay on task, i.e., stay focused so you can then have more time to do the other things you need to do. Successful time management lets you take control of your life rather than follow others. Plus, you end up accomplishing more, performing better, and becoming more successful at what you do. Added perks include a sense of satisfaction and peace of mind. But whether it's prioritizing goals, finding a sense of purpose, or practicing time management skills, none of it can be achieved without good focus. Types of focus. Having established that the ability to focus is a critical element for success in aspects of life, let us now look at the different types of focus you need to develop to achieve that success. Inner focus, focusing on others, outer focus. Inner focus. This is the most common of all types. Inner focus is an individual's ability to block out distractions, focus on the present moment and task, and stay calm under the pressure. This type of focus develops a person's intuition, gut feeling, and good decision making. The benefits of establishing inner focus allows you to stay focused in your goals and manage your own schedule. Focusing on others. Not everyone masters this type of focus as it goes beyond what you're doing and demands that you attend to what others are doing and saying instead. This type of focus is especially important in workplace situations or teamwork scenarios where your output is affected by others' input. However, this type of focus is not only restricted to professional settings, but is equally applicable to personal and social contexts as well. Outer focus. Outer focus goes beyond paying attention to other people and demands paying attention to your surroundings instead. Outer focus is based on peripheral learning and allows a person to think strategically. It also allows for making adjustments to outer surroundings as circumstances around you change. In this video, we'll talk about escaping the busy trap. Being overwhelmed results in burnout. This produces a condition where the individual feels mentally and emotionally and physically exhausted. The feeling occurs when you feel overwhelmed and aren't able to keep up with demands. As a result, chaos also factors into the equation, and the missing element once again is focus. The feeling of being persistently overwhelmed can easily cause you to lose interest as well as motivation and bring on a state that leaves you feeling powerless, helpless, and extremely worn out. Once again, you may be trying to do too much more than is realistic to handle. When talking about burnout, remember that it's not mere exhaustion that you experience. It does not merely affect your performance, but every aspect of your life. For instance, work may become unbearable, but you will also lose interest in almost everything else that you do. Fun stops being fun while every significant thing starts to bother you. In a state of burnout, this feeling does not go away, but sticks around on a regular basis. In fact, staying in this forlorn condition will likely make you believe that there is no alternative or getting out of this mess. So, how do you get yourself out of this rut? You turn your attention to focus. The what, why, and when formula will come in very handy when you feel overwhelmed. Sort out issues by focusing on what's important. Figure out why it is so and when to deal with it. Once you have the answers to these simple questions, you can at least start to untangle the web of feeling overwhelmed. However, the problem with feeling overwhelmed is that it's not always possible to identify the burnout yourself. Experts recommend that when you feel distressed, seek out help from friends, family, and others that you trust. They can not only give you an outside opinion, but may also be able to help you by citing examples of why they believe you may be burnt out. Once you have identified the trigger for your woes, be prepared to make some serious changes. This effort will take a lot of focus on your part, as you will not only have to make serious changes, but also stick with them for a while. The bright side to this entire episode is that once you start making the shift, you should start to feel more motivated again. A good place to start is by focusing and working on some of the following. Cut off the source of the burnout. Where possible, shun the trigger that's causing you to feel overwhelmed. Job-related burnouts often happen from too many hours working and too little personal time. Try to be healthy. Being overwhelmed can easily take a toll on your health, so engage in some form of physical activity to give yourself a break. While taking a break may sound counterintuitive to focusing, the idea is to shift the focus from the cause of the burnout and redirect focus on taking care of yourself instead. Eat well. Focus on taking care of yourself by eating a little better than before. Chances are that being in a burnout state, you also neglect your diet. After all, the first thing most people reach for when overwhelmed is an abundance of junk and convenience foods. Chuck these out and refocus on what will make you feel better, both on the inside and out. Sleep better. Last but not least, a burnout will bring forth long-term exhaustion with it. The simple coping mechanism for this issue is to focus on getting both good quality and quantity of sleep. When you want to get out of this despondent state, remember that focus is the one thing holding everything together. It's this ability to concentrate on your well-being that will allow you to remove all the negativity out of your life. While you're in an internal state of being unfocused, things can go horribly wrong in the external world. Personal turbulence aside, the world keeps moving at its pace, continuing to bombard you with the daily grind, moving at a breakneck speed. With decisions and information piling up all the time, it becomes really hard to stay focused. And while you may not be able to detect so yourself, there are certain red flags that can identify the most common habits of unfocused people. They don't plan. It's very difficult to stay focused without a plan to execute. Unfocused individuals tend to work by whim rather than by strategy. They seem to get into things that they think might be important without really knowing why. On the contrary, people who focus on their goals have a strategy to execute and move progressively through their agenda rather than randomly. They lose track of time. If you find yourself running short of time on most of your tasks, you're probably not focusing on good time management. You may be getting too deep into things where it's not required and end up spending too much time on one specific task, which, with focus and planning, could have been allotted to multiple tasks instead. Being unfocused also makes the individual struggle with keeping track of time. They run late. Closely tying in with poor time management is the susceptibility of always running late. Unfocused people not only tend to mismanage time, but also exhibit unrealistic ideas about time. For instance, a common tendency is to have an unclear idea about how long it takes to get to places. It becomes norm with such people to miscalculate distances or neglect outside factors that may affect travel times. Another common scenario of being unfocused is when someone takes on a new project without finishing a previous one. The result is nothing but chaos, where not many of the projects get done and the individual is left scampering to finish up while running behind on various tasks. They get easily distracted. People without focus are the easiest targets of distractions. That is to say that distractions are everywhere. Some of them obvious, others not so much, but they do get in the way of getting things done. If you're not focused, then every time you switch or shift from one activity to the next, there's a time lag in between. For unfocused folks, this void can be easily filled by sneaky distractions like getting on their cell phone, playing Candy Crush, and even a simple conversation is enough to take them far away from their assigned task. Does that sound like something that happens to you a lot? If so, you need to work on your focus. They are messy, unorganized, and possibly even flaky. Being out of focus leaves its mark on the organizational skills of any person. Such people tend to be surrounded by clutter, unable to ever find what they're looking for, and suffer gravely when it comes to productivity. They are also unable to follow through on promises, tend to skip out on appointments, and are quite prone to canceling at the last minute. Unfocused people have a hard time committing and appear as flaky when they continuously fail to follow through. This not only harms their efforts, but can be disastrous for their reputation. They worry about everything. If you find that you worry too much or get agitated over every small thing, you need to redirect your focus and channel it on the things that are truly important. Learn to distinguish the substantial stuff from the unsubstantial, and then focus on that alone. In this video, we'll learn about reclaiming your time. Now that you know that distraction is the main reason we lose focus, let's talk a bit about the various forms distractions can take. In many cases, these distractions may not seem as obvious as one imagines, but may make you feel scattered or fuzzy instead. The result is that you may end up blaming yourself for not having more control. At this point, it's important to remember that as we get older, both focus and concentration can change, just as so can memory and other cognitive functions. However, this does not have to be inevitable. On the contrary, certain studies with older individuals reveal that the capacity for strategic learning or decision-making may even improve with age. There are certain habits and situations that can factor into impairing focus. Most are everyday habits that can be changed with some effort and may become the starting point for you to move ahead with gaining better focus and concentration. Food has a direct impact on cognition, which is why a poor decision at lunch can derail an entire afternoon. Why this happens is because everything we eat is converted by the body into glucose, providing energy, but not every type of food is processed by the body at the same rate. So a poor diet that leads to hunger and dehydration can become a major distraction. Hunger can have a myriad of negative effects on health and behavior, including the ability to focus. It's often tied into low blood sugar that directly leads to fatigue and low energy levels. Dehydration, on the other hand, can lead to numerous symptoms that can reduce focus, including headaches, fatigue, and low mood. Studies establish that even 1% lower than optimal hydration can bring about a lack of focus. So what are some of the pitfalls you need to avoid to keep hunger and dehydration from setting in? Here's a look. Weight loss diets. Weight loss diets are notoriously bad for focus and concentration. Among these, low-fat diets can be held accountable as the brain needs essential fatty acids for proper functioning, and these fats deprive the body of such nutrients. At the same time, cutting out on important nutrients like proteins is bad as well. This is because the amino acids in protein are essential for optimal brain performance in creating brain chemicals that improve focus. Processed foods. Poor nutrition, often in the form of empty calories, does not give you the energy that you need. With insufficient energy, the brain has a hard time functioning or focusing on anything properly. As a result, you may find that you experience mild irritability when you eat processed foods. An example, eating processed foods such as cured meats can make the brain foggy. When you consume salt and protein-rich foods like these, there's a tendency to become dehydrated, and dehydration can diminish cognitive function. Junk foods. Junk foods are a whole story by itself. Junk foods come in a high-fat, high-sugar, and high-calorie package that gets digested fairly quickly. And while you may get instant gratification from eating these foods, they really don't do much to satisfy hunger. Instead, since junk foods are devoid of nutrients, the body gets forced to engage sugar as a source of energy. This form of energy is quickly spent given the refined nature of sugar, leaving you with a sugar high also experienced as a temporary sensation of energy. But after the metabolism has used up all the available energy, the surge is followed by a sugar crash, accompanied by a feeling of fatigue, lethargy, focus loss, and a wandering brain. Maintaining hormonal equilibrium is key to optimal brain functioning. It may surprise you to know that a deficiency of specific hormones can bring about significant changes in mental focus and processing. With hormones out of whack, you may find yourself having difficulty remembering people's names, snapping unintentionally, suffering from mood swings, or even start to feel depressed. All these and other factors play a part in affecting the way your brain functions. For women, the one thing to watch out for is estrogen levels. This female hormone can dictate everything from sugar cravings to bouts of fatigue and mood swings. Any imbalance is then seen as impacting mental agility, where low estrogen levels can impair mental functions like memory, reasoning, and even mood from running smoothly. As a result, women may often observe that fluctuations in estrogen levels during perimenopause and menopause may make their memory and attention wax and wane. Another consideration that falls under hormonal imbalances is one that can impact the ability to focus on hypothyroidism. Low thyroid issues have been directly linked with causing mental fog, concentration issues, depression, and even short-term memory loss. It's important that an optimal balance of estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone is maintained, since all three hormones act directly on nerve cells in the brain. Collectively, these hormones can help facilitate neurotransmission, protect cells from neurotoxins, and improve blood flow in the brain. Any imbalance, and the result could be a significant drop in cognition, mental focus, and the ability to sustain concentration. This common issue does not get the true attention it deserves. Even with a single night of insufficient sleep, the mind suffers greatly and focus becomes compromised. When you don't sleep well, your thought processes slow down and you become less alert. This affects your ability to concentrate and can make the mind confused enough to prevent you from performing tasks that require complex thought. Also, feeling sleepy can cut into your working memory, which is an important component of focusing. The sensation makes you less vigilant and reduces the speed and accuracy of mental tasks. While memory and cognitive functioning gradually diminish with age, people with persistent or higher levels of stress are especially vulnerable. The negative effects of stress on memory can cause the brain to freeze and completely lose track of focus. This can happen in any scenario, from students studying for an exam to introducing a friend and forgetting their name midway through introductions. Focus caves into stress in these situations, as thinking gets so preoccupied with stress-inducing stimuli that the other thoughts fail to emerge. In this way, it hampers working memory, which is associated with short-term memory. Regular exercise releases brain chemicals which are key for memory, and a lack of the same can impact focus and concentration. Exercise stimulates areas of the brain which are involved in memory functions. Physical activities release a chemical called BDNF, or brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which rewires memory circuits so they work better. As such, 30 minutes of exercise can help you make more BNDF, but doing so once a week won't help. Exercise needs to be made a regular part of a daily routine to reap cognitive benefits. Surrounding environment. The environment where you are sitting down can quickly become a distracting factor when you're trying to concentrate. There could be multiple diversions, such as loud noises, bright lighting, visual disruptions, and even temperature inconsistencies. Even though they may seem trivial, these environmental variables can play an important role in making or breaking focus. Another common distraction is the quality of information you need to process. If the information is relevant to the task at hand, then it will likely keep your focus engaged, but you can easily become distracted if you don't have the right information to work with. Issues like an incomplete email, a skipped step, or a misleading phone message can mess up your focus as you try to make sense of the situation. In this video, we'll discover the benefits of being focused. So far, it's safe to say that being focused can help yield great benefits, not only for the mind and body, but the overall life quality of a person. Here's how being focused can help you achieve greater success and control of your life. When you're focused, you can take control of the things that you're doing. But if you're not focused, that task or thing will end up controlling you. Once you've become focused on something and you have channeled all your energy into that particular task, you can handle the task in a better way. Control will also come easy when you apply all three types of focus simultaneously into all your tasks. Inner focus will keep you on track and away from distractions, while paying attention to others makes you more aware. But it is perhaps outer focus that will be the most beneficial in gaining control, since it gives you the flexibility to give you a contingency plan if needed. Being focused helps harvest positive energy in the body. It also allows you to get control out of a negative spiral and put things into perspective. When you look at different aspects of daily life, the instinctive reaction is to pay attention to the deficits and focus on what's wrong. And because attention amplifies everything, focus on the negative aspects will make everything worse. Instead, it is best to detach from the problem and reinvest focus on how to make the best out of a bad situation. Everyday obstacles are an unavoidable occurrence, but when you focus on the positive, it can help you get through difficult times more steadily. Perhaps situations like this will demand that you bring out your inner focus fully, since such situations affects the individual personally. The same can also create chaos in life, so focusing on the positive can help reduce or get rid of this chaos completely. One of the most important benefits of staying focused is that it refines your problem-solving skills. If you're not focused, you will never make it through a problem. The way an individual approaches a problem can vary greatly. For instance, one person may focus more on the reason of the problem than the solution, and the other vice versa. The former of these will have problem-focused thinking, while the latter will engage in solution-focused thinking. Of the two, problem-focused thinking will not help solve anything, but solution-focused thinking can yield the opposite result. Instills decision-making skills. The ability to make decisions is crucial for survival and cannot be executed without focus. Successful decision-making is based on the principles of logical and critical thinking, which needs to be focus-based. Whether you are a boss or an employee, whether you are a parent or a student, you need to make several decisions either on a daily basis or on an occasional basis. None of the decisions can be made until and unless you are completely focused on the issue. In addition, the issue does not resolve by simply making any decision, but it has to be the right one. Plus, making the right decision also involves executing it correctly. The process includes identifying critical decisions and filtering out unimportant ones. Making the right decision also means you need to focus on getting the right information to make a good decision. Removes distractions. Success is not something that can be achieved without determination and willpower. To have both these attributes, you need to focus on getting rid of distractions. While it may seem that people who are highly organized and successful are just like everybody, this is not the case. Instead, they have several habits that are associated with the elimination of distractions from their life. Distractions can take you away from your goals and aims, even on a daily basis. Even the most common distraction can make the completion of the task an impossibility. Thus, you need to stay focused, because it's only through staying focused that you can succeed in getting rid of distractions. Once you're able to do that, there's nothing stopping you from achieving your goals or getting your tasks done. At the end of the day, it always comes down to how focused you are on your goal. If you ask any famous successful person, you would see that focus was a big part of their story. And it's because they stayed focused that they achieved the position that they are in today. Get things done. This is probably the one benefit of being focused that we all feel in our daily life. If you stay focused, there's a better chance of you being able to finish something you started or complete something that you're supposed to do. Anyone who is not focused tends to postpone the task until some next day or other time, and as a result, the task remains undone. Being focused is a demand of every profession and every field of life. In every single sphere of life, you will need to be focused to get done what needs to get done. Generates satisfaction. Staying focused also makes you feel content with yourself and everyone else around you. If you're not focused on one thing and your mind is always wandering around, you'll have more pressure and stress on your mind and body. This robs you of any peace that you could hope for. Once you are focused, you can just keep one thing in front of your eyes, and that makes you feel content because your brain and heart are finally in sync with what they want and what they need to do. Builds momentum. Focus increases effectiveness, which in turn lets you progress faster with your tasks. The faster you get your scheduled tasks out of the way, the greater your productivity. Focus-based momentum also helps you stay on track and prevents derailing. On the other hand, changing direction deflates momentum and disturbs focus as well. This point can also tie in with multitasking, where you may be trying to get too much done at one time, and every task suffers. So, to stay in momentum, start a job on time, finish it all the way through, and then move on to the next task. Reduces stress. Staying focused also helps reduce stress, as all your concentration will be on the task at hand. A lack of focus, on the other hand, leads to becoming overwhelmed with too much to do and too little time to do it. Being overwhelmed also impairs your judgment on where to start, and that can be stressful too. With focus, clarity becomes improved. It allows you to get out of overwhelm, which in turn reduces stress and leads to improved outcomes. With clarity intact, you can see the progress you're making and will work with focus to achieve your desired results. Focus gives direction and purpose to a task. In this sense, it engages the interest and effort of the individual. With a clear-cut target in sight, you will not be hesitant to put in additional effort, since most people are not afraid of hard work, but the possibility of failure. When goals are not articulated, it becomes hard and even impossible to focus on how to achieve them. So, focus-oriented direction will pique interest and engagement in all scenarios.